I really hate to say this as a 600 fan, but I genuinely think the R9 is gonna be a better motorcycle. It might not rev as high as a 600, and it doesn't have our hearts yet like these things do, but I really do think that it soon will. Let's go for a ride on this ZX6 today and talk about why I think the R9 is gonna put the 600 class to rest, finally. Actually, before we go on a ride, I need to tell you what I'm talking about so this can kind of make sense. We're talking about power. The R9 doesn't have a claimed horsepower number yet, but we do know that the MT-07 has 117 horsepower. So it would be fair to assume that it's gonna be maybe that a little bit above, which is perfect for what the 600 class has. This particular bike has 128, and that's with Ram Air, so it's right at 120 horsepower. And that's true for most of the 600 class. Check it out right here. Now we can go on a ride.
But torque, that's gonna be the difference. I really think that's what's gonna put these 600s to bed, man. So even though the R9 is gonna have about the same amount of power as even this is a 2012 ZX6, it's gonna have almost 15 foot-pounds of torque more. They claim somewhere in the mid-60s, and I'm sure that with exhaust and a tune, that may get really close to that 65, maybe 70 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know what people are gonna be able to do with them, but that is literally the exact problem that everyone has with these machines, is the torque, the lack of torque. Everyone loves the 600 power. There's plenty of people out there that, myself included, think that this is a perfect power level. 120 horsepower is absolutely more than enough in any situation, especially for street riding. But not having any torque and having to wring the bike out and rev it to actually get power right here, 45 miles an hour, 5,000 RPMs, like I can pin it and not go anywhere. So having that extra 15 foot-pounds of torque is going to be absolutely beautiful. And trust me, I love the 600 class, I really do. But having actual torque on an R9, I genuinely believe is gonna be the downfall of the rest of the 600 class.
But the R9 is gonna be heavy. It's new, it has ABS, traction control, it's gonna have the lean sensitive 6-way IMU, it's gonna have all this new extra tech that makes all the modern motorcycles heavy. But Yamaha only claims 430 pounds, which is lighter than this thing right here, and most of the 600s that are out nowadays. Kind of like...
And even right here, seated on a 600, 10-15 pounds you're not gonna feel. Yes, in this case the R9 is gonna be lighter, but you're not gonna feel a 10 or 15 pound difference on a bike unless you actually ride them back to back, which, let's be honest, most people are not doing. And an extra 15 pounds being lighter, or if it was heavier in a hypothetical world where they claimed the weight inaccurately, which does happen sometimes, I'm not claiming anything, but it does happen, you don't feel that. If you're the type of person that has to have those extra 5 pounds, those extra 10 pounds to be faster, a 600 is not going to be the bike you're racing. It's going to be 1,000. It's going to be the flagship model with absolutely no compromise. So the weight is, yeah, it's going to be about the same. So it's not going to be taking away anything from the bike. It's not going to be adding anything to the bike. And surprisingly, it is actually going to be a little bit lighter. So there you go.
If torque and horsepower is where these guys are going to be left behind, then technology is going to have the 600 class left in the dust.
This bike, this 600, is absolutely 100% bare bones. The flagship model when this bike came out was a ZX-10. Still is a ZX-10 for the Ninja class. But this bike is always gonna have less tech than the 1000. Because the 1000's a faster bike, it also demands a little bit more money. So they're not gonna be able to make as much of a profit on this bike as they will a 1000. So the 1000s always get the full suite of electronics. But this time around, the R1 is being discontinued and not being sold outside of a track version in the European market. Yes, here in the US, we're still gonna get the R1, but if they've discontinued it in some markets, they're not gonna continue to improve it, and it's not gonna be their flagship model moving forward, or it's either gonna be a redesigned R1 or it's gonna be something different. So right here, this year, the R9 is gonna get the full suite of electronics. Everything that, for the most part, the 1000 would have. Wheelie control, anti-slide ABS, 6-way IMU. It's gonna have all the rider mode. It's gonna have all of the premium features, because in a lot of the world, it's not gonna have an R1 to compete with. There is no flagship model that they're trying to save features for, right? Yes, like I said, technically in the US, we're gonna get an R1, but It's the same R1 from last year. They're not doing anything different. They're not upgrading anything. So this is going to be the new model with all of the new features, and there has to be no compromise. Like, this is one of the rare situations where there isn't a compromise to make sure that another model doesn't get overstepped by the lower model or the less powerful model. The R9 in most of the world is going to be the top flagship sport bike.
And when it comes to suspension, the R9 is going to have KYB, forks in the front, shock in the back, all fully adjustable. So there's not going to be a real loss. I think that the R9 is going to be equivalent to what 600s handle like. Not sure about the ergonomics. Obviously, they claim a sporty ergonomic position, but we're not 100% sure until we sit our butts on it. I really doubt that Yamaha would make a worse handling motorcycle, but I'll let you know as soon as I get my hands on one. And the biggest part of the success and failure of this class is going to be Yamaha. Don't forget that Yamaha basically brought the parallel twin class to the front line when they redesigned this motorcycle. When the MTs and parallel twins came out, 600s were class leading, and they started as a little ripple. And now the modern day parallel twin is everywhere and the 600s are gone. This was Yamaha being the front runner of this advancement. And now they're leading it with a new triple Spooper Sport class. I think that they're the only manufacturer that's willing to go outside of the box and do something very different. They were successful when it came to the MTs and the parallel twins and that naked bike class, and I think they're going to be successful with this. Don't ever underestimate Yamaha. They seem to be the only company that's literally modernizing, innovating, and is not scared to find a new market for new motorcycles where everyone else is kind of just copying what they're doing and what's working. Yamaha is leading the charge, and they're still doing it with this bike. So I really hope that this bike is successful, because a 600 class motorcycle or 600 power level motorcycle with actual torque is going to be very fun. I like the crouch position. I love the level of speed that these 600s have. That is why I enjoy riding one. Do I ride it every day? No, absolutely not. But it is a pleasure to take these things out, rev them, have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of spirited riding, and being able to do that with more usable torque, man. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and maybe I can get on Yamaha's radar to ride one of those bikes whenever they do the press release. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.